We need to wake up and get on board with the possibility that Ole Miss could win the whole dang thing. They could. Okay? I just put Penn State in Tier 1 a week ago. Okay? Penn State was in Tier 1 when I did the Big Ten. Why? Because I love their roster. Well, I also went back, and I know we can't use bowl games as the ultimate indicator of future success. If you do, you probably shouldn't. But I did see the number one defense in the country on the field that day, and I did see an Ole Miss offense that dropped 38 points and 540 yards against the number one defense in the country. I also look at what they have back on offense. They returned 8 guys that started for them last year. Then they went out and added about a handful of other starters from other places that are only going to reinforce the quality that they had coming back. Jackson Dart is excellent, has been for a while, was challenged last year in the offseason, came out a better player as a result of the 3-way quarterback battle that they had throughout the 23 campaign. Well, now he's looking back and he's thrown for over 6,000 yards. Pretty good. One of 2 quarterbacks in the SEC that's thrown for 6,000 yards. You do have a couple of questions. Sure, you lose Quinshon Judkins. That's fine. Ulysses Bentley steps right in. He averaged almost 6 yards a carry last year. The wide receivers, no one's pushing back on that. Trey Harris is back. Jordan Watkins is back. Caden Priestcorn's back at tight end. You add Juice Wells from South Carolina, a guy that was a preseason all-SEC player going into last year. Was banged up last year for the most part, but they have the weapons. But the problem with Ole Miss for a long time, it's always been that they had weapons, but on the line of scrimmage, offensively and defensively, they weren't quite as good as some of the teams that they would play. They weren't as good as Georgia. They weren't as good as Bama. They weren't as good as LSU along both lines of scrimmage. That now has changed with some of the additions they've made in the portal. A couple of big additions along the offensive line, but along the defensive line is where it might be felt more. Walter Nolan transfers in from Texas A&M, was number 1 recruit in the world a couple years ago. They also bring in Princely Umanmielen, who led Florida in tackles for loss, sacks, and quarterback hurries. This was a team last year that was 70th in total defense and 382 yards per game given up, and they gave up 153 yards a game in rush defense. That was 73rd. Okay. That's not going to be the case this year. I expect them to be much better defensively, and I expect them to be a whole heck of a lot stouter against the run with some of the additions they've made in the portal. Look at the schedule, too. The non-conference shouldn't cause any problems. They go to Wake in week 3. Other than that, should be able to handle their business en route to a 4-0 start. At LSU on October 12th will be a very difficult game. Could be a shootout. They had 700 yards of offense against LSU last year. Oklahoma, they come to Oxford on October 26th. So they really have a month to kind of get their ducks in a row before things tighten up in the middle of October and get a little bit tighter as the rest of the season goes along. I do think their final 5 games are challenging, for sure. Egg Bowl is always tough, but you got Oklahoma on the 26th of October. You got Georgia on the 9th. They come to them. Then you go to Florida on November 23rd. So I do think there are challenges there in the back end, but still, they're going to probably get to the college football playoff. And I think when they get there, they can win some games en route to a possible national championship opportunity.